In this video, we're going to discuss about top 10 best horror movies. If you didn't subscribe our channel yet, then don't subscribe and don't like our video. You know what I mean, right? Our number 10 countdown is Dead Silence.
Or she'll rip your tongue out at the seam.
This is a horror movie directed by James Wan, who's also behind Saw. The story follows Jamie Ashen, a man who returns to his hometown after his wife, Lisa, is found dead with her mouth wide open and a creepy ventriloquist's dummy beside her. Naturally, Jamie starts digging into what happened, and it leads him to the town's dark past. It turns out, the key to the mystery is Mary Shaw, a ventriloquist from the town who was rumored to have had a creepy relationship with her dolls. As Jamie digs deeper, he uncovers more about Mary's tragic and spooky story, which involves her seeking revenge on those who wronged her. The movie has all the classic horror elements: creepy old towns, ghosts, and of course terrifying puppets. The atmosphere is tense and eerie, making you second-guess every doll and strange sound. Our number 9 countdown is Mungo. This is one of those movies that totally messes with your head in the best way. It's a found-footage style film that's not your typical ghost story. The movie is about a family dealing with the sudden death of their teenage daughter, Alice, who drowned while swimming at a local lake. But things get super weird after her death when strange things start happening, like eerie footage of Alice appearing in the background of their home videos and pictures, even though she's supposed to be gone. The family starts investigating these weird occurrences, and they uncover a ton of disturbing secrets about Alice's life that no one knew about. It turns out, Alice had been hiding some dark things, and the more they learn, the more things get creepy and confusing. It's not your typical haunted house kind of ghost story, but it's definitely a film that'll stay with you long after it's over. Our number 8 countdown is Terrifier.
Hack me up into little pieces or something.
This is a wild, no-holds-barred slasher film that's definitely not for the squeamish. Directed by Damien Leone, the movie introduces Art the Clown, a creepy silent killer who's all about torturing and murdering his victims in the most brutal ways possible. The story follows two women, Tara and Dawn, who end up trapped in an old, creepy building on Halloween night. Of course, Art the Clown shows up to make their night a living nightmare. What makes Terrifier stand out is how absolutely brutal it is. The kills are graphic, over the top, and straight up shocking. It's one of those movies that really leans into its gore, and it's got some of the most disturbing death scenes you'll see in a horror movie. If you're into gore for the sake of it, Terrifier delivers big time. The thing about Art is that he's creepy as heck, and he doesn't need to say a word to freak you out. His unsettling smile and bizarre movements make him a killer you won't forget anytime soon. Our number 7 countdown is A Dark Song.
Driven!
This is a super creepy, slow-burn horror film that's not your typical scarefest. The story's about Sophia, a woman trying to reach out to her dead son, and Joseph, this weird occultist who helps her perform a crazy, dangerous ritual in a secluded house. She's hoping the ritual will let her talk to her son's spirit, but it's a long, intense process. The movie isn't about jump scares or crazy monsters. It's more about the building tension between Sophia and Joseph as the ritual gets more and more intense. They're both slowly losing it, and you start to question what's real and what's in their heads. It's definitely more psychological horror than anything else. Like, the horror comes from their minds slowly unraveling. There's a lot of focus on the relationship between Sophia and Joseph. They're both dealing with some pretty heavy stuff, and watching them push through this insane ritual together makes the whole thing even more uncomfortable. Our number 6 countdown is House of 1000 Corpses.
This can't be real, this can't be real, this can't be real.
This is basically a crazy, bloody ride that you can't look away from. Directed by Rob Zombie, this horror flick is all about a group of 4 friends who get stuck at this creepy gas station in the middle of nowhere. The place is run by the Firefly family, who seem nice enough at first, but soon enough, things get super messed up. The Firefly family is made up of some seriously freaky, messed up people. You've got this twisted group that loves to mess with their guests in the most disturbing ways, including murder and torture. The movie's got everything: blood, creepy characters, and a lot of weirdness. There's also this creepy figure called Doctor, Satan, that ties into all the madness, adding even more horror to the mix. It's definitely not a movie for everyone. If you're not into gory, disturbing stuff, this one will probably be way too much. Our number 5 countdown is Hellfest. This is a fun, slasher-style horror flick that's perfect for anyone who loves a good Halloween vibe. The movie takes place at a spooky, over-the-top Halloween theme park called Hellfest, where visitors can walk through creepy haunted houses and experience terrifying attractions. But things take a dark turn when a real-life killer starts picking off the guests, using the chaos of the park as the perfect cover for his murders. The film follows a group of friends who are just there to have a fun, scary time, but they quickly realize they're in way over their heads. The killer, dressed like one of the park's creepy characters, blends right in with the crowd, making it hard to tell who's part of the show and who's really out for blood. As the group tries to escape, the killer hunts them down one by one. It's not the most intense or mind-blowing horror film, but if you're into slasher flicks and Halloween fun, Hellfest delivers some solid thrills. Our number 4 countdown is La Mesita del Comedor. This is a Spanish horror flick that's all about creepy, unsettling vibes. The story centers around a family who starts noticing strange stuff happening around an old coffee table in their dining room. At first, it seems like just some weird coincidences, but things get seriously eerie when they realize the table might be tied to something dark and supernatural. The movie doesn't rely on jump scares, but builds up a slow, creepy tension as the family starts freaking out over the strange happenings. As things get weirder, they have to deal with their own personal fears, while also trying to figure out what's going on with the table. It's one of those films where the horror feels real, because it's connected to something as ordinary as furniture, making it all the more unsettling. Our number 3 countdown is The Invitation. This is a creepy horror thriller that's got that something's off vibe from the get-go. The story follows Evie, a young woman who finds out she has a distant relative in England thanks to a DNA test. She's invited to a fancy wedding at their estate, thinking it'll be a fun chance to connect with family. But of course, things get super weird once she gets there. The family seems way too perfect, and the other guests are all acting kinda strange. As Evie digs deeper, she starts realizing that there's a lot more going on than she originally thought. The wedding turns out to be a lot darker than she ever expected, and let's just say, it's not just a family reunion. It's a setup for something pretty sinister. The movie starts slow, with a lot of building tension, as Evie checks out the creepy mansion and meets her relatives. Our number 2 countdown is The Empty Man. This is one of those creepy horror flicks that kind of flies under the radar, but really sticks with you once you've seen it. The story kicks off with James Badge Dale, a guy looking into the disappearance of a young woman. As he digs deeper, he stumbles across this urban legend about the Empty Man, a creepy supernatural being who's tied to some weird cult stuff. Instead of the usual jump scares, this movie's all about building a creepy, unsettling atmosphere. It plays with reality and messes with your head, making you wonder what's real and what's not. The whole vibe is super eerie, and it's got this slow burn tension that keeps you on edge. The more James investigates, the weirder and darker everything gets. If you're into movies that make you feel uneasy and leave you with a bunch of questions, The Empty Man is definitely worth checking out. Our number 1 countdown is Phantasm.
If this one doesn't scare you, you're already dead.
This is one of those super weird horror movies that you can't help but be intrigued by. It's got that cult classic vibe where it's a bit trippy and doesn't always make sense, but that's kind of what makes it so cool. The story's about this guy named Mike who starts noticing some seriously strange stuff at a local cemetery. Bodies are vanishing, and this creepy old mortician, called the Tall Man, seems to be behind it all. What's wild about Phantasm is how bizarre it is. It's not your typical horror flick. Instead of just scaring you with gore or jump scares, it messes with your head and gives off a really strange, dreamlike vibe. There are flying silver balls that attack people, creepy funeral home scenes, and just a lot of weird stuff that doesn't always get explained. It's like watching someone's fever dream, and it's both terrifying and fascinating at the same time. Phantasm is a slow-burn, weird horror movie that blends a bunch of different creepy elements together.